March 16th is not an ordinary day. This is not just another date on the calendar. This is a marked moment, a spiritual intersection where heaven is issuing an emergency warning. You did not click on this by accident. You were led here because God is speaking clearly and urgently. Protect your peace right now. Not tomorrow. Not later tonight. Right now. There is something negative attempting to enter your life, and it is not arriving loudly. It is not crashing through the front door. It is approaching subtly, quietly, almost politely. But do not be deceived by its quiet approach. What enters softly can disrupt violently if left unchecked. This is why this message carries weight. The word emergency is not used lightly in the Spirit. Heaven does not sound alarms without purpose. When God says protect your peace, it means your peace has become a target. And if peace is the target, then something significant must be ahead. Because peace is not just a feeling. Peace is positioning. Peace is clarity. Peace is alignment. When your peace is intact, you hear God clearly. You make wise decisions. You move with discernment instead of emotion. But when peace is disturbed, confusion enters. When confusion enters, mistakes follow. And when mistakes follow, regret tries to settle in. March 16th carries a divine alert because there is a shift happening around you. Something is attempting to create agitation. You may have already felt it. A subtle restlessness, a slight irritation, an unexpected wave of overthinking. Perhaps nothing dramatic has happened yet, but something feels different. The atmosphere feels charged. The enemy does not always attack your health or your finances first. Sometimes the first point of contact is your peace. Because if your peace can be shaken, your focus can be broken. And if your focus is broken, your direction can be altered. Listen carefully before it's too late. That phrase is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create awareness. This is not about panic. This is about preparation. There is a difference. Panic reacts. Preparation responds. And God is calling you to respond wisely. Something negative is trying to enter your life, and it may come through a conversation, a message, a memory, or a sudden emotional shift. It may disguise itself as a small issue. It may appear insignificant. But small doors, when left open, allow larger storms to follow. The reason this warning is urgent is because timing matters. There are moments when heaven intervenes before damage occurs. This is one of those moments. This is mercy speaking in advance. This is protection speaking before impact. Many people only realize their peace was stolen after chaos has already unfolded. But today, you are being warned beforehand. That is not coincidence. That is divine care. God is showing you what is trying to approach so you can close the door before it crosses the threshold. Ask yourself honestly, have you felt a slight tension rising? Have you noticed your thoughts becoming heavier? Have you sensed that something is trying to provoke you emotionally? These are not random fluctuations. There is intention behind this. And the reason it is important to act now is because the longer negativity lingers at the edge of your mind, the easier it becomes to justify letting it in. It whispers subtle lies. It suggests overreactions. It magnifies small concerns into large fears. And before you know it, your inner calm is replaced with internal noise. But here is the powerful truth. The fact that this warning has reached you means you are not defenseless. You are not unaware. You are not exposed. You are being equipped. God does not warn without empowering. If He says protect your peace, it means you have the authority to do so. It means you have the discernment to recognize what does not belong. It means you can say no to conversations that disturb you. You can step back from environments that drain you. You can silence thoughts that attempt to spiral out of control. This is not about isolating yourself in fear. It is about guarding what is sacred. Your peace is sacred. It is the atmosphere where God speaks. It is the soil where faith grows. It is the foundation for wise decisions. And right now, that foundation is under quiet observation. Something is looking for an entry point. It may test you with irritation. It may tempt you with reaction. It may try to rush you into decisions without clarity. But you must not move from disturbance. You must move from stillness. March 16th is a checkpoint. It is a moment to pause and become spiritually alert. It is a reminder that not every emotion deserves your agreement. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every invitation deserves your acceptance. Protect your peace right now, because what is ahead requires stability. What is coming requires focus. And what God is preparing for you cannot be received in chaos. This is why you had to open this message now. Delay can mean distraction. Ignoring this could mean unnecessary struggle. But listening, truly listening, positions you differently. It places you ahead of the disruption instead of behind it. And in this moment, the difference matters more than you realize. The emergency is not to scare you. It is to strengthen you. Something negative is trying to enter your life, but it does not have permission unless you grant it access. And today, you are being reminded that you hold the gate. What you must understand right now is this: negativity rarely announces itself as danger. It does not arrive wearing a label that says, "I am here to disrupt your destiny." It comes disguised as normal life. It blends into routine. It hides inside everyday moments. And that is why so many people miss the warning signs. The enemy's strategy is not always destruction in one dramatic blow. Often, it is disturbance in small waves. A subtle disruption here. A minor irritation there. A slight shift in your emotional stability. And before long, your inner world feels unsettled. Disturbance is strategic. When your peace is stable, you think clearly. You pray clearly. You decide clearly. But when disturbance enters, your thoughts speed up. You begin replaying conversations. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You read into messages that were never meant to harm you. A simple delay becomes rejection in your mind. A neutral comment becomes criticism. The smallest inconvenience begins to feel like a personal attack. This is how disturbance works. It magnifies shadows and makes them look like mountains. Pay attention to sudden emotional spikes. If you were calm yesterday but today you feel unusually tense without a clear reason, that is not something to ignore. If small inconveniences are triggering disproportionate reactions inside you, something is attempting to shake your equilibrium. The enemy knows that if he can pull you into emotional overreaction, he can pull you out of spiritual alignment. Action replaces reflection. Impulse replaces wisdom. And peace quietly slips out the back door while you are busy defending yourself in battles that were never meant to be fought. Sometimes the disturbance will come through other people. A conversation that feels slightly off. A comment that carries an unusual edge. A disagreement that escalates faster than it should. Not every conflict is spiritual warfare, but some conflicts are strategically timed, especially when they arise during moments of progress or breakthrough. If you are moving forward, growing, building, healing, or preparing for something significant, disturbance will often attempt to interrupt that momentum. The goal is not necessarily to destroy you immediately. The goal is to distract you long enough to delay what God is doing. Disturbance also enters through information. What you watch, what you read, what you listen to. Social media posts designed to provoke comparison, news that stirs fear, opinions that stir anger. These things may seem harmless in small doses, but when your spirit is already under subtle pressure, they become amplifiers. They turn whispers of doubt into loud internal arguments. Suddenly, your mind is crowded, and a crowded mind struggles to hear divine direction. This is why the instruction is so specific. Protect your peace right now. Protection requires intention. You cannot passively hope for peace. You must actively guard it. If a conversation feels draining, you have permission to step back. If a message disturbs your spirit, you have permission to delay responding. If an environment feels heavy, you have permission to remove yourself. Protecting your peace is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is spiritual maturity. It is understanding that not every invitation deserves your energy. Let me speak directly to you. If this message is confirming something you have already been sensing, then this is your moment to take it seriously. Do not brush it off. Do not tell yourself you are imagining things. The reason this resonates is because your spirit recognizes the shift, and this is the time to respond with clarity. If this is speaking to you, I want you to engage right now. Like this message as a declaration that you choose peace over chaos. Comment, "I receive peace," as an act of agreement with what God is saying. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to daily prophetic guidance that strengthens your discernment. Share this warning with someone who may not even realize their peace is under attack. When you interact, you are not just supporting a video. You are reinforcing your decision to stand guarded and alert. Remember, disturbance does not have power unless you cooperate with it. It needs your reaction. It feeds on your overthinking. It grows through your fear. But when you pause instead of react, when you pray instead of panic, when you breathe instead of argue, you weaken its influence. You close the entry point. You make it clear that your inner atmosphere is not available for manipulation. Right now, something is attempting to create emotional noise around you. It may not be loud yet. It may be subtle. But subtle does not mean harmless. The earlier you recognize it, the easier it is to stop. This is why this warning matters today, not next week. Disturbance that is confronted early dissolves quickly. Disturbance that is ignored often multiplies. You are being called to heightened awareness, not paranoia. Awareness. There is a difference. Paranoia fears everything. Awareness discerns what does not belong. And in this season, your discernment must be sharp, because the attack is not on your resources, is not even on your relationships first, is on your peace. And if your peace remains intact, everything else remains protected. The strategy is disturbance. The counter-strategy is guarded calm. And what comes next will reveal the first clear sign that something negative is trying to cross into your emotional space. The first sign that something negative is trying to enter your life is unusual emotional pressure. Not normal stress. Not the kind of pressure that comes from responsibilities or daily tasks. This feels different. It feels heavier than the situation requires. It feels like your emotions are being amplified beyond reason. You may wake up feeling tense without understanding why. You may notice your thoughts moving faster than usual, circling around the same concerns again and again. Small issues begin to feel overwhelming. Minor inconveniences feel deeply personal. And suddenly, your inner world feels crowded. This is not random. Emotional pressure is often the first knock on the door of your peace. It does not break the door down. It presses against it slowly, It tests your stability. It whispers exaggerations. It magnifies possibilities that have not even happened. You begin imagining conversations that never occurred. You rehearse arguments in your mind. You anticipate problems that have not shown up. And the more you entertain these thoughts, the more real they begin to feel. Pay close attention if you have recently experienced sudden anxiety without a clear source. If nothing major has changed in your external circumstances, yet internally you feel restless, that is a signal. If you find yourself overanalyzing simple interactions, reading deeply into tone, facial expressions, or text messages, that is another signal. When emotional pressure increases without proportionate cause, it is often an attempt to weaken your clarity. You may also notice an unusual heaviness in the atmosphere around you. Rooms may feel tense. Conversations may feel charged. Even silence may feel uncomfortable. This is because emotional pressure does not only affect your thoughts, it influences your perception. It makes neutral environments feel threatening. It makes ordinary days feel unstable. And if you are not careful, you begin reacting to feelings instead of facts. Another form of this pressure can appear in your sleep. Disturbing dreams, restless nights, waking up suddenly with your mind racing, or feeling drained even after resting. Emotional pressure tries to wear you down quietly. It chips away at your energy so that you respond impulsively instead of thoughtfully. And when you are tired, your defense is lower. When you are exhausted, you are more likely to speak before thinking, decide before praying, and react before discerning. This is why recognizing this sign early is critical. Emotional pressure is not meant to inform you. It is meant to rush you. It pushes you toward quick conclusions. It encourages sudden decisions. It creates urgency where there is none. And urgency fueled by fear rarely leads to wisdom. The enemy hopes you will mistake emotional intensity for truth. But intensity does not equal accuracy. Just because something feels urgent does not mean it is real. Right now, if you have been feeling unusually irritated, easily triggered, or unexpectedly discouraged, pause. Do not judge yourself. Do not assume you are weak. Instead, become aware. Ask yourself, is this emotion proportionate to the situation? Or is something amplifying it? Awareness alone begins to reduce its power. The moment you recognize that pressure is external and not entirely your own, you create space between you and the feeling. And in that space, peace can return. What makes the sign dangerous is how convincing it feels. Emotional pressure can imitate intuition. It can masquerade as discernment. It can tell you something is wrong, even when nothing tangible has changed. That is why you must filter feelings through stillness, not through panic. If you respond while emotionally compressed, you may open doors that were never meant to be opened. You might be tempted to confront someone abruptly, to send a message you cannot take back, to withdraw from opportunities out of fear, to assume betrayal where there is none. This is how negativity gains access, not through force but through your reaction. And once peace is replaced by agitation, everything begins to look unstable. But hear this clearly. Emotional pressure is a sign, not a sentence. It is a warning light, not a verdict. It is alerting you so you can strengthen your boundaries. When you feel it rising, that is your cue to slow down, not speed up. That is your signal to breathe, pray, and wait. The pressure wants you to move quickly. Wisdom tells you to remain steady. There is something deeper unfolding, and you need clarity to see it. If you allow emotional pressure to dominate your thoughts, you will miss the bigger picture. What comes next reveals the deeper layer behind this pressure. and you will be grateful that you recognized the sign before it escalated. Before we continue, seal this moment with intention. Type "I am protected" in the comments if this resonates with you. Lesson code 314 is now activated. And as you hold on to that declaration, understand this: peace is not passive. It is guarded. It is defended. And right now, you are being strengthened to defend it. The pressure you feel is not proof of defeat. It is proof that something valuable within you is worth targeting. But what is guarded cannot be stolen, and what is recognized early cannot easily grow unchecked. As this warning settles into your spirit, understand that this message is more than information. It is a lifeline to souls who are standing at the edge of emotional storms. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not supporting a channel. You are helping God send light into darkened rooms. Scripture declares, "I will rebuke the devourer for your sake," and that promise becomes active when obedience moves your hand. I feel led to say this plainly. When you respond in faith, heaven responds in multiplication. Your giving becomes oil that keeps this prophetic lamp burning for someone who almost gave up last night. The PayPal link is in the description, and you may see the QR code flashing on the screen. This is your moment to act. Do not let hesitation silence obedience. As you sow, may peace guard your household, may clarity rest upon your mind, and may doors of divine favor open before you. Step into this act of faith now and release your seed into fertile ground. Now that you understand the first sign, unusual emotional pressure, you must also understand how negativity actually enters. It rarely forces its way in. It looks for doorways, and these doorways are often ordinary parts of your daily life. That is what makes them dangerous. They do not look like threats. They look familiar, comfortable, harmless. But when left unguarded, they become access points. One of the most common doorways is conversation. A single discussion can shift your entire emotional state if you are not discerning. It may begin casually. A friend sharing an opinion. A coworker venting frustration. A family member bringing up an old issue. At first, you are simply listening. But slowly, the tone changes. Doubt is introduced. Suspicion is planted. Comparison is stirred. And before you realize it, your spirit feels unsettled. The conversation ends, but the residue remains. You replay it. You analyze it. You begin questioning things that were once clear. This is how negativity slips in, through words that linger longer than they should. Another doorway is digital exposure. What you scroll through can shape your emotional climate more than you realize. A single post can ignite insecurity. A headline can awaken fear. An image can trigger comparison. You may think you are simply passing time, but your mind is absorbing every detail. When your guard is down, your peace becomes vulnerable to outside influence. And because digital information moves quickly, emotional disturbance can spread rapidly within you before you even notice the shift. There is also the doorway of old memories. Sometimes negativity does not need a new situation. It will use your past. A familiar scent. A date on the calendar. Suddenly, memories resurface. Regret. Past disappointments. Betrayals you thought you had healed from. If those memories are not filtered through growth and forgiveness, they reopen wounds. And reopened wounds create fresh emotional instability. The enemy understands that if he can reconnect you to past pain, he can distract you from present purpose. Financial worries can become another entrance. Even a small unexpected expense can trigger exaggerated fear if your mind is already under subtle pressure. Thoughts begin to spiral. What if this continues? What if I cannot handle it? What if everything falls apart? A situation may be manageable, but the narrative in your mind becomes catastrophic. The negativity does not always attack the size of the problem. It attacks your interpretation of the problem. Relationships also serve as vulnerable entry points. A minor misunderstanding can escalate when emotional tension is already present. A delayed response to a message can feel like rejection. A simple disagreement can feel like betrayal. When peace is fragile, perception becomes distorted. And distorted perception can turn manageable situations into emotional battles. The enemy does not need to destroy relationships outright. He only needs to introduce enough friction to disturb your calm. Timing is critical in all of this. These doorways often open when you are on the verge of progress, when you are building discipline, when you are healing, when you are stepping into new opportunities. Negativity tries to interrupt momentum. It wants you distracted. It wants you second-guessing. It wants you emotionally entangled in unnecessary conflict so you cannot focus on what truly matters. You must also consider the doorway of internal dialogue. Not every thought that enters your mind belongs to you. Some thoughts are suggestions, subtle insertions designed to create insecurity. You may suddenly think, what if I am not ready? What if I fail? What if they are against me? These thoughts often arrive without evidence. Yet if entertained, they begin to shape your behavior. Internal dialogue can either guard your peace or erode it. If you constantly rehearse worst-case scenarios, you unknowingly widen the doorway. Another hidden entrance is urgency. When you feel pressured to decide quickly without clarity, pause. Negativity thrives in rushed decisions. It encourages immediate reactions instead of measured responses. If you feel pushed to respond emotionally, to defend yourself instantly, or to make a sudden change without reflection, recognize that as a red flag. Peace allows space. Pressure removes it. What makes these doorways so effective is their subtlety. None of them appear dramatic on their own. A conversation, a memory, a bill, a message, a thought. But layered together, they create cumulative disturbance. And once disturbance settles in, peace becomes harder to maintain. This is why guarding your input is not optional right now. You must evaluate what you allow into your mind and heart. Ask yourself, does this conversation strengthen me or weaken me? Does this content inspire clarity or stir confusion? Does this thought align with truth or exaggerate fear? These questions act as spiritual filters. They help you close doors before negativity steps inside. You are not being called to isolation. You are being called to discernment. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Not every discussion requires your participation. Not every thought deserves your agreement. Protecting your peace means being selective with access. It means recognizing that your emotional atmosphere is sacred territory. Right now, the doorways are visible because you are aware. Awareness is power. When you know how negativity attempts to enter, you are less likely to welcome it unknowingly. And once you identify the entrances, you can stand at the threshold with confidence. Because what is coming next will explain why your peace, specifically, is being targeted in this season. And when you understand the reason, your urgency to guard it will deepen even more. And now you must ask the deeper question. Why is your peace being targeted right now? Why not your finances first? Why not your physical strength? Why not something more obvious? The answer is strategic. Peace is the foundation of everything else. When your peace is stable, you think clearly. When you think clearly, you choose wisely. When you choose wisely, you move correctly. But if peace is shaken, every decision that follows can become unstable. Peace is not passive. It is positioning. It is the internal alignment that keeps you connected to divine direction. When you are peaceful, you are not easily manipulated. You are not easily provoked. You are not easily rushed. And that makes you dangerous to anything trying to derail your progress. The enemy understands that if he can disturb your peace, he can cloud your clarity. If he clouds your clarity, he can influence your choices. And if he influences your choices, he can attempt to delay what God is building in your life. Right now, your peace is being targeted because you are approaching something significant. There is movement in your spiritual atmosphere. There is growth happening within you. You may not even see the full picture yet, but heaven does. And whenever breakthrough is near, disturbance often tries to show up first. Not to destroy you entirely, but to create enough distraction that you miss your moment. Think about it carefully. Before major progress, there is often unusual tension. Before clarity, there is confusion. Before elevation, there is resistance. This pattern is not accidental. It is predictable. The closer you get to alignment, the more subtle the opposition becomes. Because obvious attacks are easier to resist, subtle agitation is harder to detect. Your peace is also being targeted because it protects your discernment. Discernment thrives in calm environments. When you are internally quiet, you can sense what is right and what is wrong. You can feel when something aligns and when it does not. But when your emotions are loud, discernment becomes muffled. Anxiety drowns out intuition. Anger drowns out wisdom. Fear drowns out faith. And once discernment is weakened, deception becomes easier. Here is something you are about to step into that requires sharp perception. It requires measured responses. It requires emotional maturity. And if your peace is intact, you will navigate it with grace. But if your peace is fractured, you may misinterpret opportunities as threats. You may misread support as opposition. You may walk away from doors that were meant to open. Peace is also targeted because it influences your relationships. When you are peaceful, you communicate differently. You listen more carefully. You respond with patience. But when peace is disturbed, tone changes. Assumptions rise. Words become sharper. Misunderstandings increase. The enemy knows that strained relationships can create long-term consequences. And sometimes all it takes to strain a relationship is one emotionally charged reaction that could have been avoided. Another reason peace is under attack is because it reflects trust. Peace signals confidence in divine timing. It declares, "I do not need to control everything." But disturbance whispers the opposite. It says, "Take control now. Fix it now. React now." It pushes you into self-reliance fueled by fear instead of faith. And once you move from fear, you often create complications that were never necessary. Consider how powerful peace truly is. It stabilizes your mind. It steadies your voice. It regulates your decisions. It guards your sleep. It anchors your faith. Without peace, even blessings can feel stressful. Opportunities can feel overwhelming. Growth can feel intimidating. Peace allows you to receive without panic. And if something wants to prevent you from receiving what is coming, the first step is to remove your stability. This is not happening randomly. The timing is precise. You are in a season where alignment matters more than ever. Small deviations could lead to unnecessary detours. And detours often begin with emotional imbalance. A rushed response, a defensive message, an impulsive withdrawal. These moments seem small, but they can alter trajectories. Yet here is the empowering truth. The fact that your peace is being targeted means it is valuable. No one attacks what is insignificant. No one tries to disrupt what carries no threat. The pressure you feel is confirmation that your stability matters, that your clarity matters, that your alignment matters. So instead of becoming discouraged by the disturbance, let it strengthen your awareness. Let it remind you that something meaningful is unfolding. Let it push you to guard your inner world more intentionally. You are not being attacked because you are weak. You are being tested because you are advancing. And if you protect your peace now, you will step into what is ahead with steady footing. You will not be easily shaken. You will not be easily provoked. You will not be easily misled. Your peace will become your advantage. Because in the next part, you will understand exactly what God is instructing you to do right now to secure that peace before anything attempts to cross the line. Now we come to the instruction itself. Not a suggestion, not gentle advice, a command. Protect your peace right now. The urgency in that word now cannot be ignored. It does not say protect it when things get worse. It does not say protect it after conflict arises. It says right now. That means the protection must begin before the disturbance escalates. Prevention is always more powerful than repair. Protection begins with awareness, but it must move into action. You cannot simply acknowledge that your peace is under pressure. You must actively guard it. The first step is intentional stillness. When emotional tension tries to speed you up, slow yourself down deliberately. Take a breath before responding. Step away before replying. Create space between stimulus and reaction. That space is where wisdom lives. Right now, you may feel tempted to address everything immediately, to correct every misunderstanding. You confront every irritation. But protecting your peace sometimes means choosing silence over explanation. Not because you are weak, but because not every battle deserves your voice. Some conflicts dissolve when they are not fed with attention. Some provocations lose power when they do not receive reaction. Another way to protect your peace is to evaluate your environment. If a space feels heavy, limit your exposure. If certain conversations consist to drain you, shorten them. If particular content triggers comparison or fear, remove it from your routine. This is not avoidance, it is boundary setting. Boundaries are not walls of isolation. They are filters of discernment. They determine what is allowed access to your inner world. You must also guard your words. What you speak reinforces what you believe. If you constantly verbalize frustration, you strengthen agitation. If you repeatedly declare worst-case scenarios, you amplify anxiety. But when you speak calmness aloud, something shifts internally. Say, I choose peace. Say, I will not react impulsively. Say, I will respond with clarity. Words have the power to stabilize your thoughts when they are drifting. Protecting your peace also means refusing rushed decisions. If something feels urgent but emotionally charged, delay it. Sleep on it. Pray about it. Give yourself time to think without pressure. Urgency that is driven by fear is rarely aligned with wisdom. True direction carries clarity, not chaos. If you feel confused, that is a sign to pause, not proceed. There is also power in temporary withdrawal. Not withdrawal from responsibility, but withdrawal from unnecessary noise. Spend time in quiet reflection. Limit external voices so you can hear your internal guidance clearly. Peace grows stronger in still environments. When you constantly surround yourself with input, Your mind struggles to settle. Right now, you need moments of intentional quiet more than you realize. Another practical step is to examine your emotional triggers. What situations cause you to react quickly? What tones of voice irritate you? What topics make your heart race? Awareness of triggers allows you to prepare in advance. If you know something tends to unsettle you, decide before and how you will respond. Preparation reduces reaction, and reaction is often the doorway negativity is waiting for. It is also important to separate facts from feelings. Feelings are real, but they are not always reliable. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have for this fear? Is this conclusion based on facts or assumptions? Often, emotional disturbance grows from imagined scenarios rather than actual events. When you ground yourself in truth, exaggerated narratives lose their grip. You must also remember that protecting your peace does not mean suppressing your emotions. It means processing them wisely. If something hurt you, acknowledge it without letting it control you. If something disappointed you, admit it without allowing it to define your outlook. Emotional honesty combined with restraint creates strength. Depression creates pressure. Expression with wisdom creates stability. Right now, there may be people around you who do not understand your decision to step back. They may interpret your calmness as indifference. They may mistake your silence for weakness. But you are not responsible for how others interpret your boundaries. You are responsible for guarding what hath been entrusted to you, and your peace hath been entrusted to you. Remember, this is not about living in constant defense. It is about being selective with access. You do not have to explain every boundary. You do not have to justify every pause. Sometimes the most powerful statement is a composed response. Sometimes the strongest action is measured restraint. This is a defining moment. You can either react according to pressure or respond according to purpose. One leads to entanglement. The other leads to stability. Protecting your peace right now may feel uncomfortable because it requires discipline. It requires self-control. It requires patience. But the alternative, allowing disturbance to escalate, will cost far more. There is strength in calmness. There is authority in stillness. When you refuse to be rushed, you reclaim control over your choices. When you refuse to be provoked, you weaken the attempt to destabilize you. When you choose clarity over chaos, you step into alignment. This instruction is immediate because what happens next depends on it. If you secure your peace now, the next stage will unfold smoothly. If you ignore this command, small disruptions could compound into larger complications. The choice is in your hands. The gate is in your control. And right now, you are being given the opportunity to close it firmly before anything negative crosses the threshold. Now that you understand the command to protect your peace, you must also recognize the hidden trap that is waiting for you. Because even when you are aware, even when you are trying to stay calm, there is one subtle mistake that can undo everything. Reacting emotionally instead of spiritually. This is the trap, and it is more dangerous than open conflict. Emotional reaction feels justified in the moment. It feels powerful. It feels like you are defending yourself. When someone says something that irritates you, your instinct is to respond immediately. When a situation feels unfair, your impulse is to correct it quickly. When you sense tension, your body prepares for confrontation. But not every impulse deserves expression. Not every emotion deserves a microphone. The hidden trap is believing that because you feel something strongly, you must act on it immediately. That is not always wisdom. In fact, strong emotions are often signals to slow down, not speed up. The enemy hopes that the pressure you have been feeling will finally overflow into a reaction. Because once you react without reflection, consequences begin to multiply. Think about how many conflicts escalate because of one sentence spoken too quickly, one message sent without reconsideration, one decision made in frustration. These moments feel small at first, but they can shift relationships, alter opportunities, and create regret. And regret is heavy. It steals more peace than the original irritation ever could. You must avoid engaging in unnecessary arguments. Some discussions are invitations to distraction. They are not designed for resolution. They are designed for reaction. When someone tries to pull you into drama, pause. Ask yourself, is this conversation productive or is it provoking? If it is provoking, disengagement is strength. Walking away is not defeat. It is discipline. Another part of the trap is making decisions while unsettled. If you are emotionally charged, you are not thinking at your highest level. You may convince yourself that you are being decisive, but in reality, you may be acting out of pressure. Decisions made from fear often lead to retreat. Decisions made from anger often lead to damage. Decisions made from insecurity often lead to compromise. Right now, there may be a temptation to prove something, to prove your point, to prove your worth, to prove that you will not be disrespected. But when you act from the need to prove, you often lose sight of purpose. Peace does not need to prove itself. It remains steady. It allows others to misunderstand temporarily because it knows clarity will reveal itself in time. The hidden trap also appears as impulsive withdrawal. When tension rises, you may feel the urge to cut people off suddenly, to abandon projects, to step away from commitments. Sometimes withdrawal is wise, but impulsive withdrawal fueled by emotion can create isolation. You must discern whether you are stepping back from wisdom or retreating from discomfort. There is a difference. Another dangerous reaction is over-explaining. When you feel misunderstood, you may try to clarify yourself repeatedly. You may write long messages defending your intentions. You may seek validation from multiple people. But over-explaining often comes from insecurity. And insecurity grows when peace is disturbed. If you are grounded, you do not need to convince everyone of your motives. Stability speaks for itself. Be especially cautious of acting from fear. Fear will exaggerate risks. It will make you believe that something must be handled immediately, or disaster will follow. But fear rarely tells the full truth. It highlights worst-case scenarios and hides balanced perspectives. If you feel rushed by anxiety, that is your sign to wait. The cost of one impulsive reaction could be higher than you expect. A single emotional decision can delay progress you have worked months to build. One heated conversation can fracture trust that took years to develop. One defensive action can close a door that was meant to open. This is why protecting your peace is not only about maintaining calm. It is about preserving your future. Right now, you are being tested in subtle ways. The provocation may not be obvious. It may be disguised as a minor inconvenience. But your response will determine whether the situation escalates or dissolves. You have more control than you realize. You can choose silence. You can choose patience. You can choose to revisit a conversation later when your emotions are settled. It takes strength to pause. It takes maturity to delay response. It takes confidence to remain composed when others expect reaction. But that strength is within you. The pressure you have been feeling is not there to defeat you. It is there to reveal your discipline. Imagine how different outcomes can be when you respond with calm clarity instead of emotional intensity. Imagine how much regret can be avoided when you wait before speaking. Imagine how powerful it is to remain unshaken when something tries to provoke you. The hidden trap is reaction. The hidden victory is restraint. Right now, you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to unnecessary complication. The other leads to preserved peace. Choose the path that protects your future. Choose the response that aligns with wisdom. Because in the next part, you will uncover the second sign that something negative is trying to distract you, and it may already be closer than you think. The second sign that something negative is trying to enter your life is sudden distraction. Not harmless busyness. Not normal responsibilities. Sudden distraction is different. It feels like your focus is being pulled in multiple directions at once. The priorities that once felt clear now feel blurred. The discipline you were building suddenly feels harder to maintain. And without realizing it, your attention begins drifting away from what truly matters. Distraction is subtle because it does not look like danger. It looks like opportunity. It looks like entertainment. It looks like urgency. But its true purpose is interruption. When emotional pressure fails to break your peace, distraction attempts to dilute it. If you cannot be provoked into reaction, perhaps you can be lured into diversion. You may notice this sign appearing as procrastination. Tasks you were consistent with suddenly feel heavy. Important conversations are delayed. Commitments are postponed. You tell yourself you will handle it later. But later keeps moving further away. This is not laziness. This is targeted interruption. The enemy understands that delayed obedience can create missed timing. Sudden distraction can also appear as unexpected invitations. New ideas that seem exciting but are misaligned. Opportunities that require immediate attention but do not align with your long-term direction. Requests that pull you into responsibilities that were never assigned to you. Not every open door is meant to be walked through. Some doors exist only to consume your energy. Another form of distraction is emotional entanglement. You may find yourself spending excessive time analyzing minor issues, replaying conversations, imagining scenarios, checking your phone repeatedly for responses. These behaviors consume mental space, and mental space is sacred. What you focus on grows. If your focus is scattered, your strength becomes scattered too. You might also feel an unusual urge to abandon routines that were strengthening you. Perhaps you were consistent in prayer, reflection, exercise, or planning. Suddenly, those habits feel optional, replaceable. You convince yourself that missing one day does not matter. But consistent disruption weakens momentum, and weakened momentum creates vulnerability. Distraction thrives in environments without structure. When your day lacks intention, anything can claim your time. Random scrolling becomes hours lost. Unnecessary conversations expand beyond limits. Minor tasks replace meaningful progress. At the end of the day, you feel busy but unproductive, active but unfulfilled. This is not coincidence. It is diversion. The reason distraction is dangerous is because it precedes disruption. When your focus shifts away from what God is building in your life, you lose sensitivity to subtle changes. You stop noticing small warning signs. You become reactive instead of proactive. And while you are occupied with secondary matters, something more important may be unfolding unnoticed. Right now, evaluate your focus. Have you been pulled away from something you know you should prioritize? Have you allowed small distractions to consume large portions of your time? Have you felt unusually scattered? If so, this is your signal to recalibrate. Focus requires intention. You must decide what deserves your energy. Write down your priorities. Revisit your commitments. Eliminate what does not align. This is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters most. When you clarify your direction, distractions lose their appeal. It is also important to protect your mornings and evenings. The first and last moments of your day shape your mental clarity. If you begin your day with noise, your mind starts scattered. If you end your day with overstimulation, your rest becomes shallow. Guard these moments intentionally. They anchor your stability. Remember, distraction often feels harmless at first. It feels like a break, a small deviation. But repeated deviations create distance, and distance from purpose weakens peace. When you are aligned, you feel grounded. When you are distracted, you feel unsettled. That unsettled feeling is not random. It is feedback. You must reclaim your focus deliberately. Turn off notifications that are unnecessary. Limit exposure to content that drains your concentration. Schedule your priorities before distractions can claim your time. Protect your energy as carefully as you protect your emotions. There is something important unfolding in your life right now. Something that requires attention. And if you remain focused, you will recognize it clearly. But if distraction continues unchecked, you may overlook what is meant for you. You will be glad you stayed for what's about to be revealed, because understanding how to close the door completely changes how you move from this moment forward. Before we continue, seal this awareness with action. Type "My peace is sealed" in the comments. Blessing code 816 is now activated. As you declare that, understand this: focus is power. Attention is currency. What you consistently give your attention to shapes your future. And in this season, your focus must be guarded as fiercely as your emotions. If this message has sharpened your awareness, then you already understand that light must continue shining for others who are still unaware of these distractions. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are pouring oil into a lamp that refuses to go out. The word declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and that promise breathes life over every seed released in obedience. I sense strongly that your response today is not financial, it is prophetic. When you give, you partner with heaven to interrupt darkness in someone else's life. The PayPal link waits in the description, and the QR code may be flashing on your screen as a doorway for action. Do not delay what God is prompting in your spirit. As you sow, may your house be marked with peace, may your mind be anchored in clarity, and may divine acceleration locate you. Step forward now and release your seed with confidence. Now that you have recognized the signs, emotional pressure, and sudden distraction, the question becomes urgent. How do you close the door immediately? Not gradually, not eventually, immediately. Because awareness without action leaves the entrance unlocked. Closing the door begins with a decision, a firm internal declaration that your peace is not negotiable. You must decide that no conversation, no thought, no unexpected situation has permission to control your emotional state. This decision may sound simple, but it carries authority. When you become intentional, you shift from passive reaction to active protection. The first step is to speak authority over your atmosphere. Your words shape your environment more than you realize. Say aloud, "Confusion is not allowed here." Say, "Fear has no authority in my mind." Say, "Peace governs my decisions." Speaking does not make you dramatic. It makes you decisive. When you verbalize clarity, your thoughts begin aligning with it. Silence often allows negative narratives to grow unchecked, but spoken truth interrupts them. Next, remove yourself from draining environments immediately. If a conversation begins to escalate, calmly disengage. If a room feels tense, step outside for air. If a digital space triggers comparison or agitation, close the app. Do not wait until you are overwhelmed. Exit early. There is wisdom in knowing when to walk away before emotions intensify. You must also refuse to entertain fear. Fear will try to present itself as preparation. It will say, "You are just being cautious." But caution guided by wisdom feels calm. Fear-driven caution feels urgent and heavy. If your thoughts are racing, that is not clarity. It is pressure. Interrupt it. Shift your focus. Redirect your mind toward facts instead of imagined outcomes. Strengthen your spiritual routine immediately. If you have been inconsistent, re-establish rhythm. Begin your day with intention instead of reaction. Even a few focused moments of reflection can stabilize your entire schedule. When your internal world is anchored, external events lose their ability to shake you. Another critical step is to delay emotionally charged responses. If you receive a message that irritates you, wait before replying. If someone challenges you unexpectedly, pause before answering. Time weakens emotional intensity. What feels urgent in one moment often feels manageable an hour later. Patience protects you from words you cannot retrieve. Evaluate your priorities and refocus. Write down what truly matters this week. Then compare your recent actions to that list. Have distractions consume your attention? If so, eliminate one unnecessary activity immediately. Reclaim the time for something meaningful. Focus is a defense mechanism. When you are aligned with purpose, distractions lose their grip. You must also check your internal dialogue. Replace exaggerated thoughts with balanced ones. Instead of thinking, "Everything is falling apart," say, "This is a temporary challenge." Instead of assuming, "They are against me," say, "I may not have all the information yet." This shift may seem small, but it changes your emotional posture. It prevents escalation. Right now, I want to remind you, you are not fighting people. You are guarding peace. When you shift your mindset from confrontation to protection, your responses change. You stop trying to win arguments. You start prioritizing stability. You stop chasing validation. You start strengthening clarity. If this message is guiding you, engage with it actively. Subscribe to this channel so you remain equipped with daily prophetic insight that sharpens your discernment. Share this message with someone who may not recognize the signs of disruption around them. And comment your declaration of peace below, not as routine engagement, but as reinforcement of your commitment to guard your atmosphere. Remember, doors close through decisive action. You do not close a door halfway. You shut it fully. That may mean setting a boundary you have delayed. It may mean ending a draining conversation. It may mean reorganizing your schedule. It may mean choosing silence when provoked. Whatever it requires, act now. There is power in immediacy. The longer negativity lingers, the more comfortable it becomes. But when you confront it early, it loses influence quickly. Your calm response disrupts its strategy. Your measured silence confuses its expectation. Your focused attention weakens its distraction. You are not helpless in this. You are equipped. You are aware. And you are capable of securing your peace before any damage unfolds. The authority to close the door has always been in your hands. And hold on to this truth carefully. What happens if you ignore this warning is more serious than you realize. Because the next part will reveal the consequences of leaving the door open, and understanding that reality will solidify your decision today. Now we must address the sobering reality. What happens if this warning is ignored? Not to create fear, but to create clarity. Because understanding the consequences strengthens your resolve to act wisely. When a door is left slightly open, it rarely stays slightly open. It swings wider over time, and what enters gradually can take up more space than you ever intended. If you ignore this warning and allow emotional pressure to linger, small irritations can escalate into major conflicts. What could have been resolved with patience becomes complicated by reaction. Words spoken in haste can echo longer than expected. Relationships that were stable can begin to feel fragile, and the regret that follows emotional decisions often weighs heavier than the original frustration ever did. When peace is neglected, confusion replaces it. You may begin doubting decisions you were once confident about. You may second-guess opportunities that were aligned. You may misinterpret support as opposition. This is what confusion does. It distorts perception, and distorted perception leads to misaligned actions. You might walk away from something meant to bless you simply because it feels uncomfortable in a moment of instability. Ignoring the warning can also delay progress. Distraction, if unchecked, compounds. One postponed task becomes a pattern of avoidance. One missed opportunity becomes a series of missed connections. Momentum slows, confidence decreases, and before you realize it, you are working harder to regain ground you once held firmly. The tragedy is not failure, it is unnecessary delay. Emotional exhaustion is another consequence. When peace is unsettled for extended periods, your mind grows tired. You overthink. You replay scenarios. You anticipate problems that may never arrive. This constant internal activity drains energy. You feel fatigue even without physical exertion, and exhaustion lowers resilience. When you are tired emotionally, even minor inconveniences feel overwhelming. There is also the danger of opening doors to influences that were never meant to stay. When your discernment weakens, you may tolerate attitudes, conversations, or environments that slowly erode your stability. What once felt unacceptable begins to feel normal. Boundaries soften, standards lower, and gradually, you adjust to a level of disturbance that should have been resisted. Another consequence is reactive decision-making. You may change direction abruptly because something feels uncomfortable. You may withdraw from commitments prematurely. You may confront someone without clarity. And once those actions are taken, they are difficult to reverse. One impulsive shift can alter long-term outcomes. The cost of reaction is often hidden until later. Ignoring this warning also affects your spiritual sensitivity. When your inner world is noisy, it becomes harder to sense subtle guidance. You may miss gentle nudges. You may overlook quiet confirmations. The more chaotic your internal atmosphere becomes, the less receptive you are to direction. And misdirection can lead to unnecessary detours. Perhaps the most painful outcome is regret. Regret often whispers, "You knew better." It reminds you of the moment you felt prompted to pause but chose to proceed. It replays the warning you sensed but dismissed. And while regret can teach lessons, it can also steal confidence if you dwell in it too long. But hear this carefully. This message is not a prediction of failure. It is prevention. You are being shown what could happen so that you can choose differently. Awareness eliminates inevitability. The fact that you are hearing this now means you are not trapped in the consequences. You are positioned ahead of them. There is still time to strengthen your boundaries. There is still time to calm your emotions. There is still time to refocus your attention. Ignoring the warning leads to escalation. Heeding it leads to stability. Imagine two paths unfolding from this moment. On one path, you dismiss the uneasiness. You continue reacting quickly. You allow distraction to guide your schedule. And slowly, complications accumulate. On the other path, you pause. You guard your words. You protect your time. You recalibrate your focus. And what could have become chaotic dissolves quietly. The difference between those two paths is not luck. It is choice. Right now, you are being offered the opportunity to avoid unnecessary struggle, to prevent complications before they arise, to maintain clarity instead of repairing confusion later. That is mercy. That is divine intervention before damage. Let this reality strengthen your discipline. Let it deepen your commitment to protect your peace. Because what is ahead requires stability, not exhaustion. It requires discernment, not regret. And in the next part, you will see the powerful outcome that unfolds when you obey this instruction and choose to guard your peace intentionally. Now let us shift from warning to promise. Because obedience does not only prevent damage, it activates blessing. When you choose to protect your peace right now, something powerful begins to unfold within you and around you. Obedience stabilizes your atmosphere, and a stable atmosphere attracts clarity, favor, and direction. When you obey this instruction, the first thing you will notice is supernatural calm. Not forced calm, not suppressed emotion. A genuine steadiness that surprises even you. Situations that would have triggered you before will no longer have the same effect. Conversations that once unsettled you will lose their edge. It will feel as though an invisible shield has been placed around your mind. That shield is the result of discipline meeting discernment. Clarity follows calmness. When your emotions are not clouding your judgment, you begin to see situations accurately. You recognize who is truly for you and who is simply passing through. You identify which opportunities align and which are distractions. Decisions that once felt complicated begin to feel straightforward. You no longer feel rushed to choose because your confidence has returned. Obedience also strengthens your discernment. You begin to sense subtle shifts before they escalate. You notice changes in tone, timing, and atmosphere quickly. But instead of reacting, you respond wisely. This awareness keeps you ahead of potential disruption. Instead of cleaning up emotional messes, you prevent them entirely. Another powerful outcome is protection over your household. When you guard your peace, you influence the emotional climate of those around you. Your stability creates stability. Your calm reduces tension. Your measured responses lower the temperature in heated environments. People may not even realize why interactions feel different, but they will sense the steadiness. Peace is contagious when it is intentional. Obedience also exposes hidden traps. When you are not emotionally entangled, you can see patterns clearly. You may suddenly recognize that certain conversations always lead to confusion. You may notice that specific environments consistently drain you. You may realize that some invitations were never aligned with your purpose. These realizations come not from suspicion but from clarity. And clarity is protection. There is also acceleration attached to obedience. When you are not distracted or emotionally delayed, progress moves smoothly. Tasks that once felt heavy become manageable. Communication improves. Opportunities align. It may feel as though doors open naturally without force. This is what happens when internal alignment meets divine timing. You are no longer working against yourself. Peaceful obedience also strengthens your confidence. When you successfully resist reaction, you build trust in your discipline. You realize that you are capable of restraint. You recognize that you do not have to respond to every provocation. That awareness increases emotional maturity. and emotional maturity attracts respect. You may also experience restored rest. When your mind is no longer racing with unresolved tension, sleep becomes deeper. Your thoughts slow down at night instead of accelerating. You wake up feeling lighter because you are no longer carrying unnecessary mental weight. Rested minds make wiser decisions. Another blessing of obedience is renewed focus. Distractions lose their appeal when your priorities are clear. You find yourself naturally drawn back to what matters. Productivity increases. Creativity returns. The energy you once spent managing emotional turbulence is redirected toward meaningful progress. Most importantly, obedience positions you for what is next. There is something ahead that requires steadiness. It requires patience. It requires the ability to remain calm under pressure. By protecting your peace now, you are preparing for that moment. You are strengthening the very qualities that will carry you forward. You will begin to notice that situations which once felt threatening now feel manageable. Instead of anticipating worst-case scenarios, you expect resolution. Instead of assuming opposition, you anticipate understanding. Your outlook shifts because your internal foundation has shifted. This is not about perfection. You may still feel moments of irritation. You may still encounter unexpected tension. But the difference is how quickly you recalibrate. Obedience creates resilience. You bounce back faster. You recover quicker. You do not dwell in emotional imbalance. When you choose to guard your peace, you also send a message to yourself. My stability matters. My clarity matters. My direction matters. That self-respect changes how you move. You stop entertaining what drains you. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You stop overextending to prove your worth. And here's the beautiful truth. Peace attracts favor. When you are grounded, others feel safe around you. When you are composed, opportunities trust you. When you are steady, leadership gravitates toward you. Stability is magnetic. Right now, obedience is not just about avoiding chaos. It is about stepping into strife. It is about choosing discipline over impulse. It is about valuing long-term peace over short-term reaction. And as we move into the final part, you will see how this entire warning was not about fear at all. It was about positioning you for victory on March 16th and beyond. Now we come to the final assurance. This entire message was never meant to frighten you. It was meant to fortify you. March 16th is not a day of defeat. It is a day of awareness. It is a day where Evan stepped in and said, "Pay attention. Guard what matters. Protect your peace right now." And because you listened, you are not walking into the season unprepared. You have seen the signs. You understand the emotional pressure. You recognize sudden distraction. You know the hidden trap of reaction. You have learned how to close the door immediately. And you understand both the consequence of ignoring the warning and the blessing of obeying it. That knowledge alone has shifted your position. This was never about expecting something terrible to happen. It was about preventing something unnecessary from taking root. When God warns, it is protection in advance. It is mercy before impact. It is light turned on before you stumble. And today, that light has been turned on for you. Peace will guard you if you guard it. That is the divine exchange. When you honor your peace, it protects your clarity. When you defend your calm, it strengthens your decisions. When you choose restraint over reaction, you preserve your future. Peace is not fragile. It is powerful, but it requires your cooperation. March 16th becomes a turning point, not because of what tried to enter, but because of what you refuse to allow. You refuse infusion. You refuse distraction. You refused impulsive reaction. And because of that, what could have escalated will dissolve quietly. What could have become chaotic will pass by unnoticed. There is strength in awareness. There is authority in composure. There is victory in self-control. And you have stepped into all three. The very fact that you took time to receive this message shows your willingness to grow. That willingness is what keeps you ahead. Do not leave this moment thinking you must be hyper-alert or anxious. That is not the goal. The goal is steady awareness, calm discernment, quiet confidence. You are not walking on fragile ground. You are walking with clarity, and clarity changes everything. If tension tries to rise again, you now know what to do. Pause. Breathe. Speak calmness. Step back if necessary. Refocus your attention. Strengthen your routine. These actions are no longer theoretical. They are tools you can apply instantly. And here is the most reassuring truth. You are not alone in this guarding process. The same voice that warned you is the same voice that sustains you. The same guidance that alerted you will continue to direct you. You are not left to defend yourself without support. Divine help accompanies discipline. Let this day mark a shift in how you move forward. Let it be remembered as the moment you chose stability over stress, clarity over confusion, focus over distraction. You did not overreact. You did not ignore the signs. You responded with wisdom. Peace will now settle over your household. Calm will rest over your conversations. Focus will sharpen in your decisions. And what was trying to enter will find no access point. The door is closed. The atmosphere is guarded. The foundation is steady. Before we close, seal this assurance with intention. Type "My peace leads me" in the comments. Blessing code 916 is now activated. Let that declaration anchor this moment. Let it remind you that peace is not just something you feel. It is something you choose. And every time you choose it, you reinforce your strength. As we conclude, carry this confidence with you. You were warned because you are valued. You were alerted because you are advancing. You were guided because something meaningful lies ahead. And nothing negative can overtake what is consciously guarded. Stand firm. Move calmly. Think clearly. Speak wisely. And remember, this was never an emergency of fear. It was an emergency of awareness. And awareness has now positioned you for victory. As this message settles in your spirit, understand that what you experience today is not just for you. It is for countless others who are standing at the edge of emotional storms. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are planting seeds of peace into hearts across the world. The Lord declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And that promise becomes alive the moment obedience moves your hand. I sense this clearly. Your response right now is not a donation. It is a prophetic act of alignment. When you give, you help keep this light burning for someone who desperately needs direction. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and the QR code may be flashing on your screen. Step into that moment without hesitation. As you sow, may peace multiply in your home. May provision flow without strain, and may favor rise around you like a shield. Act now and release your seed into fertile ground with bold faith. This is your confirmation. Peace will guard you.